To be proactive means that you are not the product of your circumstances, but the product of your own decisions. Let me repeat this because it's so important. You are not the product of your circumstances, but the product of your own decisions. Oftentimes, we keep blaming results or behavior on external influences that we can't really control, like on other people, the government, our tax system or politics, even on the weather. Sometimes it sounds like, oh, if the tax would be a little bit lower, I would be so successful, but the government just don't know enough about this. If my boss would be nicer to me, I would produce much better results. If my wife would be a little more open-minded, then we wouldn't have all these problems as a family. This is the typical behavior of reactive people. They focus their thoughts and energy on problems that are out of their circle of influence, and this is the single most important fatal mistake which hinders them in their growth. In contrast, proactive people focus on what they can actually control and what's in their circle of influence. They don't even think of problems they can change. The key to be proactive is to cultivate a mindset that works like the following: love it, change it, or leave it. Once I understood this and noticed that there's a gap between the everyday stimulus and your response, and this is freedom to choose how to react on situations, my whole life changed drastically. How you respond to your everyday stimulus is absolutely in your responsibility. To train this, just watch your language and thoughts, because these are good indicators of how you see yourself. A proactive person uses proactive language. I will, I can, I prefer, etc. A reactive person, in contrast, uses reactive language. If only, I have to, I can't. Reactive people believe they are not responsible for what they say or do, they have no choice. If you want to train this, just watch yourself a little closer in the next 14 days and change your mind when necessary. This is what Stephen Covey said. A few years ago, when I studied at university here in Germany, I had the feeling that this was not the kind of learning in life I wanted to have. So I decided to change my situation and start my first business, which eventually became a huge success for me. Since then, I'm extremely happy with the decision. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I hadn't changed my situations a few years ago. I would probably have blamed external sources like our government, family, friends, etc., which are responsible for my life. I'm happy that I don't have to live with these consequences thanks to the one proactive decision I had made. In the words of Jim Rohn, one of my big mentors, you are never just a victim of circumstances. No matter what happens, you will never be faced with no options that could get you back on track. It takes courage to recognize this, because it means to accept responsibility for your own future. I believe we should accept this responsibility because no one can do it for us. The same wind blows on us all, the wind of disaster, the wind of opportunity and change. Therefore, it is not the blowing of the wind, but the setting of the sails that will determine our direction in life. Habit number 1, be proactive. First, let me try to explain how I differentiate effectiveness from efficiency. Most people just concentrate on efficiency, but not so much on effectiveness. They try to get more and more done on their long to-do lists and forget to evaluate if their everyday tasks are really the ones that gets them to their goals as quickly as possible. As Peter Drucker puts it, efficiency is doing things right. Effectiveness is doing the right things. For your life and personal achievements, it's so much more important to do the right things than to do things right. Imagine you are in the middle of the ocean on a sailing boat. Your goal is to arrive at a beautiful island. Would it make sense to just try to go faster and faster and don't really think about the direction? Would you arrive at the right destination or anywhere in the middle of the ocean? Life is of the same nature. If you lack a clear vision, clear goals for your life, you will arrive somewhere random and you don't know if this place is really the place you wanted to arrive at. In today's world, we call this midlife crisis. But how can one find their purpose, or in other words, the right destination? It is a difficult question to answer, but you can try to find out by practicing having the end in mind when you make decisions. You can try a simple and quick exercise to get the whole process started. Imagine you are at a funeral. It is your funeral. There are 4 people that are going to be speaking about you at your funeral. One is a close family member, like a brother, sister, son, daughter. One is a close friend. One is someone you work closely with. And the last one is from your community, like from church, local government, social club, etc. From here, take out a piece of paper and write down what you would want each person to say about you at your funeral. Think about all the things that you want to be remembered for. This process should take more than a few minutes. It takes months and years to gain a clear perspective of what you want your life to look like, at least in my case. But it is so worth starting today if you want to proactively influence your destiny. I would like to summarize the habit with Stephen Covey's own words. To begin with the end in mind means to begin each day, task or project with a clear vision of your desired direction and destination, and then continue by flexing your proactive muscles to make things happen. Habit number 2, begin with the end in mind. If you like this video, give it a like or go ahead sharing it. Also, if you do not want to miss out on more big ideas and concepts, do not forget to subscribe to our channel now. I can already tell you there are a lot of good books coming soon, like The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg.